Well, yeah, I mean, to me, I find it constantly amazing that people are still interested in Creedence, that Creedence is still as popular, maybe more popular now than ever.
Left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day, and I never lost 1 minute of sleep, worrying about the way things might have been.
Performer, producer, musician, jack of all trades. An uncanny ability to tap into America's psyche in song.
Rolling on the river.
Well, we always dreamed it. It was the dream that kept us focused. I mean, we had a lot of different personalities and that sort of thing in the band. But the one thing that we did have in common was you know, the music and our desire to have a career, to be able to, you know, turn that radio on and hear the hit singles.
I suppose it's a process of absorbing all the things you like over a long period of time. And obviously Tom and John Fogerty and Stu and Doug had absorbed all these things and decided this is what we like in music, this is what we're going to play, and it comes out fresh and believable. It wasn't just a pastiche.
In terms of musical hallmarks, you know, the signature sound of CCR, let's face it, is that swampy, gritty, simplistic, passionate. You can almost feel the sweat coming off the songs that John Fogerty sang so passionately and fervently. I mean, what a singer. The hallmark is simplicity, is swampy, blues-based, passionate rock and roll.
It ain't easy. But if you want it, you know, it's there. Go get it. It's one of the worst businesses in the entertainment industry. But you know, there's nothing wrong with making music. You don't have to be in the industry to make music. I think making music is probably more important than having a career in it. You know.
Feel like that's unpredictable for you anyway. Anything can happen.
Sure. All the doors are wide open, really. You know, each of us will develop, like I already have, will develop our own signature, I guess, the way we sound, the way we see things. But I don't know. Predictable, I guess, can mean a lot of things. It used to mean every 3 months there was a Creedence single. You know?
Yeah.
But that was too professional, so we decided to wait 12 months.
Listen.
I don't know.
I started drumming in El Cerrito. I was born in Palo Alto, and I was hooked on the music when I was 9, back when they were selling singles on 78 RPMs. About that period of time, when I was just getting started, I was walking home from school, and I heard coming out of the music room rock and roll, which was somewhat forbidden. And Mrs. Stark was a music teacher. I looked in, there was a skinny kid playing piano, and I listened for probably 4 or 5 songs, and it was Little Richard and Fats Domino. I had all those records, so I knew exactly what they were, and it was pretty authentic, pretty darn good. And I was never shy, so I walked up to him, and it was John Fogerty, and I didn't know him at the time, and I said, "That's Fats Domino and Little Richard." He says, "Yeah." I said, I have those records. You want to start a band? He says, "Yes, but actually I play guitar. I'm looking for a piano player."
so they started talking about, you know, what kind of, you know, what personnel that they were aware of that could be available. And Doug said, well, I know this, you know, a good friend of mine plays piano, and he's got a place to rehearse.
I hadn't even talked to Stu or his parents about it, and I was already working the angle. So that's how it started. First it was John and I just with his guitar and what little equipment I had drumming-wise, and you know, we were learning to play our instruments. And we got Stewie in, and he was taking classical, so he loved the rock and roll side of it.
I played piano and trumpet for many years, and you know, both my folks were musicians, professional at one time or another in their lives, but you know, not you know, didn't make a career of it.
Early on, and it's really Tom Fogarty who got us going on a recording career. Credit goes to him, because he was 4 years older than we were. He was in a band as a lead singer, and the band was, I mean, they were really good. Spiderweb and the Insects was the band, but they were kind of punks, you know. They, not Tom, but the band members, they were interested in chicks and cars. That was their big deal, and they played to get the chicks and to put gas money in their cars. So that was kind of their perception of what they were doing. Tom had you know, loftier ideas and a view of a future that would include a career. So he asked these guys if they would come and play on the demo, and they said, "Are we getting paid?" And he said, "Well, no, I saved the money up for the demo. Is any chicks going to be there?" "Well, no, it's a recording studio." So they said, "We're not interested." Tom came to us because we would practice at either my house or Stu's house, or once in a while at their house, but the piano was terribly out of tune. It was just old and battered. And he asked us if we would like to go into the studio and back him up. And we said, "Oh, make a record? Yeah." So that was exciting.
As time went on, we became more serious about where it could lead, and you know, what other possibilities existed. And so we spent more time recording, particularly with Tom. Tom would take us into the studio. We were his backup band, and then it was Tommy Fogarty and the Blue Velvets. We would record songs that either he or he and John had written.
The first two songs I think Tom had written by himself, but he included John, welcomed John in as a co-conspirator, if you will. And that was how it worked as Tommy Fogarty and the Blue Velvets for many years.
By then we had secured a record contract with Fantasy Records, a small West Coast jazz label in San Francisco, California. And one of the fellows who owned the label gave us the name the Gollywogs because he thought it sounded very British. Invasion. It had that ring to him. He's an old beatnik kind of guy, you know, with glow-in-the-dark socks and sandals. You know, I mean, from that era, the bohemian era of San Francisco.
And he put us in these ridiculous uniforms with these white Cossack hats, and they were all the same, and we just felt like idiots. I mean, it was really a humiliating experience. But what came out of that is we had a hit. It was #1 in San Jose, and Stewie and I are going to San Jose State at the time, so that's pretty cool. And it was #1 in Sacramento, which is not too far away from that market. So it gave us a large increase in our pay for live concerts, and it got us a lot more work. So it established a revenue stream that was very helpful at that time. We had the Vietnam War to deal with, and Tom was safe with a wife and 2 children, and the other 3 of us weren't so safe. Stu and I were going to San Jose State at the time, and John was working at Fantasy Records in their shipping department. And he got drafted and went into the Army Reserve, so he would be gone for 6 months. And then I had the same problem. I was working my way through school at San Jose, and so I was taking 12 units, and you needed 15 and a half, and I thought if I had okay grades, maybe they wouldn't notice me, or maybe they just wouldn't notice me. That very naive. They noticed me. So I took my physical for the Army, and I passed it at 19, 20 years old. What's not to pass? And so I'm panicked. I'm going to be drafted into the Army. And a friend of mine at San Jose State was in the Coast Guard Reserve. He was a 6'4", 240 from El Cerrito, and big baseball star at San Jose, and played baseball for the Coast Guard and was a hero there. And so I said, you got to get me in the Coast Guard Reserve. He said, everybody wants to be in the Coast Guard Reserve. There's one problem. There's a 2-year waiting list. So I said, well, I'm going to be drafted. So he said, we'll go to the coach. He said, do you play baseball? I said, not really. Anyway, he lied to the coach. Said I was 4 years all-league in high school. I was playing freshman ball at San Jose. I was going to go up to the varsity the next year. And so they swore me in that day. Well, John had gone through his boot camp and all of that, and now I was out and done with mine. So we made a pact after the return from the military reserve, 6 months reserve time that John and I had gone through. And we decided that we were going to quit everything, focus 100% on music for a year or however long it would take us to make it, or to just give up. And we'd work out in the clubs for a week or two and make some money, and then we'd spend the other couple of weeks working in the city, trying to get press, trying to get into the bigger arenas where the big Bay Area bands were, so we could get our career moving.
The final name of the band was a result of 1, maybe 2 weeks of torture, trying to name the band. It's easier to name somebody in your family, I think. Tom knew a fellow named Creedence. Worked with him at Pacific Gas and Electric for years. A fellow from South Africa. And so that's where the Creedence part came from, and then just as a name, there's a name you never heard before, right? But the word does have, a kind of a high meaning, a belief, to believe in something. It's a hopeful word, right? A positive word, and the Clearwater refers to the new ecological attitudes that were starting to spread, and get noticed, and actually starting to have some effect on the direction of state of nature, and the use of the environment, so on. And the revival was about the personal revival that we were all recommitting ourselves to really go at this full time. By then we were convinced that what we wanted to do was make records and be on the radio and see our name up on the marquee and go as far as we could.
Tom, who had credit cards, would max a card out until we got a second sheriff's warning, and then we would put some money on that, and then we would stretch another one. And for a guy that had a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage, to make that sacrifice, and believe me, his wife did not like it, was not happy at all, and you can't blame her. Tom stood up to the plate, and it was spectacular. Stewie had a brand new Chevelle Super Sport that he got for graduation from his dad, who wanted him to go to law school and join his law firm. And Stewie sold that car, and that gave us a nice bit of capital to get the ball rolling. His dad was not a happy camper, furious. And I was broke, and I had a Volkswagen bus, and I was the driver to gigs, and I donated, the services of that little vehicle, and that's how it started. And we were literally starving artists.
We knew we couldn't do it part-time, you know, so everybody, I'd finished college, Doug had taken a leave from college, John and Doug had both gotten themselves out of military obligations, which was quite difficult given that it was the height of the Vietnam War. And Tom had quit his long-time job with the public utility company in the area, and we took our savings and sold whatever we could and decided we were going to go for it. So the name change was, you know, gave us something in our minds to live up to. You know, here's a name, here's a big name, whatever it means. One day John just put all these elements together and said, "What do you think about this?" And we said, "Great." You know, can we stop looking for names now? So then Suzie Q came out about 6 months. You know, we've been in the studio working. Suzie Q came out 6 months later, and you know, the next phase of the story began.
Suzie Q was the first big hit by Creedence Clearwater Revival back in 1968, and actually it was a cover of a hit that was by Dale Hawkins, originally in the charts in 1957, so I suppose it really showed how Creedence were referring to their early rock and roll roots. They'd started out as a rock and roll band themselves.
Suzie Q defining the sound of CCR? Not particularly, because here is a band that did the 3-4 minute songs, the Americana, the storytelling. Suzie Q was one of those rarities on this album that came out of the gate that showed their ability to experiment and again flex their musical muscles.
Well, the first album, one of the way the process went, we would work on an album at a time, and we had our first album. And of course, our first hit was not an original song, it was Suzie Q by Dale Hawkins. But that was a song that we played in the clubs, and really we stretched it out for two reasons. First of all, we had a repertoire, but when we were working in the clubs, we played 5 sets a night, 5 45-minute sets, 6 nights a week. That'll get you going. And so we needed to sort of stretch that out a little bit, and people were into the dancing thing, and that was at the time when the San Francisco bands were doing the longer tracks, so we stretched that out.
In terms of CCR's early sound, Suzie Q is often looked at as a song that defined what the band would be and who the band were. And I'll go along with that. It remains my favorite CCR song. The great thing about it, unlike a lot of their 2- and 3-minute hits, this was an elongated song that had a groove and you could really get into it for a long time in the car. It's one of those songs that you can crank and sing along to and just play your air guitar to, and Suzie Q's it for me. I mean, John Fogerty didn't write it, but man, he made it sound like he did.
Looking for a job in the city, working for the man every night and day, and I never lost 1 minute of sleep, and worrying about the way things might have been. Big wheel will keep on turning, proud mirror keep on burning, rolling, rolling, rolling on the river.
Second album, we really did need an original song, otherwise we would be another one-hit wonder, and actually the song that was supposed to be the single was Born on the Bayou. Now, John says that's not true, but I know for a fact that it's true, and I'll tell you why. Suzie Q is a quarter note beat, and it's very powerful. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 played on the bell of the cymbal with my right hand. The accents, or the in-betweens, the 8th notes in between, are played with the foot. Boom, ah, 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 cha-kun, ka-chunka. The backbeats are 2 and 4 over here. Born on the Bayou was a very similar beat. It was a quarter note song, that driving quarter note thing. It had a little different pattern on the foot, but it was very similar. And you know, when you have a winning formula, you kind of go, hey, that was a hit, and all these components. So you put the same components in. Proud Mary was on the other side of it, which was going to be a B-side, and radio is what radio turned the record over. Bayou was a turntable hit, got a lot of airplay, but Proud Mary was very unique and very different, and radio turned it over. And once that happened, then the consultants jumped on it, and we were off to the races.
Big wheel keep on turning, Proud Mary keep on burning, rolling, rolling, rolling on a river.
Proud Mary was the song that really put Creedence Clearwater Revival on the map. This was the tremendously powerful and interesting concept, really, very descriptive piece of music about a Mississippi steamboat, and not a woman of the night from New Orleans, as some people thought, or maybe John Fogerty's girlfriend, I don't know. But Proud Mary wasn't a person, it was a boat. And the music somehow kind of summed up the feeling of a ship rolling down the river, which is what it was all about. But the nice part about the way it was constructed was that there were little pauses and breaks and accents. It seemed to stop suddenly, and then you get the feeling maybe the boat is pausing to let passengers off and bring new people on, or tie up at a jetty. You can imagine all these things if you're thinking about the steamboat itself rolling down the river.
Big wheel keep on turning, Proud Mary keep on burning.
Proud Mary being one of those great little bits of Americana storytelling in 3 minutes 57 seconds.
It was huge. Original single, and a style unlike any others that were out at the time. I mean, it was a style that was the old Southern style.
Proud Mary was really when people started to treat us like we were, an item. We were in demand then.
Proud Mary was the song, undeniably, that put CCR on the map. I mean, there were songs that certainly set the stage for the sound they would be, that were, southern, swampy rock. But in terms of cutting through to the masses and having a hit, a #2 hit, Proud Mary was it. It really did define the way CCR would sound to the masses.
It's interesting, I mean, how authentic was the music that they were creating? Would you have said that they were actually born on the bayou? Were they Cajun people? How authentic was it, really? But I don't think that mattered. They were American for a start. I mean, we listened to English guys and people from all over the world playing rock and roll for years and years. So if you were from Liverpool, nobody objected too much if you sang Twist and Shout.
Don't know if we'd been to the South yet. I can't recall. I can tell you, the first time we went to the South, we were in Louisiana, and I think we were in Baton Rouge, which is the state capital. We tried to check into our hotel room, and the guy, they wouldn't let us check in because we had long hair. And I mean, we had no place to stay. We were playing at the Coliseum, the big whatever it was, that weekend, and they wouldn't let us check into the hotel. And so we ended up staying with the band that was our support act, local band, a band called Smoke. We ended up staying at their place out on the bayou for a couple of days, while our road manager was able to meet somebody from the in the government and get him to explain the situation. It got him to pressure the hotel manager to let us stay in the hotel at least the night that we played. So it was like they didn't think we were from the South. They knew darn well we were from San Francisco. Boys from the South didn't look like that. It's one of those, you're not from around here, are you?
let's face it, when it comes to CCR, and it's almost cliche now because everyone says, you know, they sound like they come right out of the swamps of Florida or Louisiana or Mississippi, and sure they do, and we quickly came to know them as a band out of El Cerrito, California. But those sounds of the swamp permeated their music, and we loved them so much for that.
Well, we were the odd man out in the Bay Area. We were very successful, just like we were everywhere else, but everyone else was playing acid rock, and we weren't. And other bands used to laugh at us. And we were very straight. We didn't get high when we played or when we rehearsed. We would go to see these other bands before we had made it, you know, and they were always just stoned to the max, and they weren't even in tune most of the time. And we'd see them coming off the stage, and oh, it's the best we've ever sounded. We sat there and went, these guys can't even play out of a wet paper sack.
There's sort of one criticism, if you can call it a criticism, that's been levelled at Creedence, is that they're so super professional. You know, they never jam on stage. They just get up, do a brilliant performance, and that's it, go off.
Well, those days are over.
That's fair?
Right.
That's not true, and it's not believable.
Actually, that never was.
Yeah.
What does happen on stage? And I haven't seen Creedence on stage yet, so what happens?
Chaos.
Totally.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Before, during, or after?
No, during performance.
Oh. Well, let's see. We put on a LP and...
Just mouth the words.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's all mime.
Yeah.
You know, you keep changing, even if you play the same song, you keep changing the way you feel about it, so it comes out different anyhow, you know.
It seems like a criticism, though, that they say Creedence, you know, are really a business machine. I'm sure it is jealousy, but, you know, it seems a criticism that you're so super professional, you know, and you're so well run as a business.
Well,
That's our thing. And we really get off doing it that way. It's no fun for us unless we can do it that way.
It's a lot less heartache doing it that way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I say it? We had to perform under non-professional standards, you know, in circumstances for about 10 years, I guess. 2 of which happened after we were, you know, getting some notoriety. And, you know, all the time you show up and the people there, you know, the promoter, what have you, isn't professional, gives you a 180-watt stereo to sing through, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, if you're professional about it, you bring your own.
No writing in the studio. There was no jamming in the studio. We would work for about 6 to 8 weeks once we had an album figured out, what every song was going to be, and we rehearsed that album. We had more one takes in the studio than probably anybody I know. Went to #1, the album did, all over the world, but our first #1 album in America, and that was a big deal. Something that, you know, anybody would be excited about, certainly. And it was also, I think, Bad Moon Rising was our first #1 single in England. So, coming off of that album were some real milestones for us as a band, and pretty exciting.
Bad Moon Rising from Green River was another blockbuster hit for the band, #2 in America, a million seller, of course. And this as well actually kind of summed up the band's feeling for rock and roll. I mean, you can actually imagine, say, Eddie Cochran doing this song back in the 50s. It has that kind of driving energy to it.
Don't put around tonight, who's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise.
Bad Moon Rising, musical highlight of that album? For me it is, I know. And we've all heard this in a variety of films over the years, and you want to either run out and grab the album or throw it back on your CD player or call the radio station, you want to hear that, or you want to go and rent the movie again. It's such a great song, especially when there's a full moon. Come on.
Hope you got your things together. Hope you quite prepared to die. Looks like we're in for nasty weather. One night is taken for a night. Well, don't go around tonight. Who's bound to take your life? There's a bad moon on the rise. Don't go around tonight. Who's bound to take your life? There's a bad moon on the rise.
Bad Moon Rising was our first #1 hit in England, and a simple country tune, a rockabilly type tune, and I mean, just one note on the bass. Dun, 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 dun. I remember when that song was #1 in England, we had a little celebration down at the record company and a little champagne toast, and Doug and I proceeded to head out on the road and get into a car, motorcycle, and a third party. We were all involved in an accident together, and his Porsche was totaled, my motorcycle was totaled, and I was on crutches for about a week, but no serious damage. But you know, gotta watch out for those celebrations.
Down on the Corner was from Willie and the Poor Boys, and actually this is another example of Creedence Clearwater moving on to a slightly different feel, away from the bayou and maybe towards the Caribbean. There was obviously New Orleans being quite close to the West Indies and not that far away geographically speaking, so there was always a kind of interaction in old New Orleans music and early jazz as well. So there's a Caribbean flavour to a calypso feel to this song.
Down on the Corner was kind of really Willie and the Poor Boys was us, and you know, that's why we had our little instruments and kind of going back to the youth, and very, very basic gut bucket and a washboard, a harmonica and a, you know, a kalamazoo. That's even more basic than we even started with, but it was a neat little story, and I think it's one of our best efforts. Down on the Corner is one of the most popular songs we play in concert. We get people react very strongly to that song. It's just a fun little simple little ditty, you know. It's got a nice little kind of back and forth thing, and you know, I think it's one of John's best.
One of them, yeah. Down on the Corner is one of the finest moments. That was a very tough song for us to record because we just kept wanting to speed it up, and it had to have that, you know, a bit of a laid back, off the beat feel, and we'd never played a song like that. And in fact, we might have said, "Hey, John, this isn't rock and roll." You know, we might have been resistant, and when we finally settled down, I think, you know, we captured what was necessary to. In that song, again, another hook, dun 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 dun, you know, bass and guitar throughout the whole song, really. You know, then the rhythm, dugga dugga dunk 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 dunk. Just, you know, the simple little elements. There really wasn't a whole lot of parts, but when they were put together, they made a classic.
Down on the corner, out in the street, when the poor boys are playing, bring a nickel, tap your feet. Down on the corner, out in the street, when the poor boys are playing, bring a nickel, tap your feet.
Some people will have dismissed Creedence Clearwater Revival as, oh, John Fogerty's backing group. Well, that's a very unfair thing, I think, really, because every band, you know, each member of the band, drummer, bass player, rhythm guitarist, backing vocalists, they all have their part to play.
I think Doug and I, we often refer to ourselves as this, we're pick and shovel players, you know, like we're down in the trenches, digging the hole. We're straight ahead, nothing fancy. Try and keep it consistent and in the pocket, and you know, be supportive of the song. We're confident. We're not flashy. But we're a little more than adequate. Okay. Tom was a solid rhythm guitar player. John is, as a singer, you know, raw, untrained, powerful. As a guitar player, again, adequate. You know, we were all just sort of like a garage band. You know, I mean, they talk about garage bands. That's all we were. I mean, we originally rehearsed in Tom's garage. It wasn't really about a lot of flash and a lot of technique. It was more about playing as best we could what was really right for the moment.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue. And when the band plays "Hail to the Chief," ooh, they point the cannon at you. No, it ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no senator's son.
Fortunate Son, one of 3 anti-war tracks on that album. Right place, right time. Again, he summed it up in simple words, and it worked. I know he wasn't a great fan of Nixon, and again, it was just perfect timing.
It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no millionaire's son.
Well, Fortunate Son was about, loosely about the Nixon family. You know, the era was rife with political dissent, you know, the Vietnam War, and just a whole lot of social changes going on in the United States at the time. And the song spoke to the inequities in who was actually doing the fighting and the dying, and you know, who was not doing the fighting and the dying. John, you know, had really tried to address some of the more basic problems. You know, forget about the whole, you know, Vietnam and what's going on with that. You know, there's a problem here with how Americans are being used. You know, it's not something that the whole country appears to be fighting for. You know, some people are getting out of it.
Cosmo's Factory as an album has a very professional feel to it, in the sense that production was a bit ropey in the late 60s, a bit erratic. You hear most British bands in that period. God knows what's going on in terms of, is it going to be mono, is it going to be stereo, instruments leaking from one channel to another. So Cosmo's Factory, in retrospect, sounds sleeker, a better production. Maybe it lost a bit of the magic, but to my ears it's one of their better albums.
Cosmos Factory is a meandering of styles. Personally, for me, my favorite CCR album. We always get calls for that particular album. Can I hear a side of this or a track from Cosmos Factory? For me, as I was getting into this band, it took like probably 3 or 4 albums, and by the time I got to Cosmos Factory, I was totally in love with this band, and I loved it from front to back cover.
I think it was really the final wedge, or the beginning of the ultimate fracture in the band. It started John wanting to show that he was in control. We were doing a Midwestern tour that had been sold out. We're playing coliseums, basketball coliseums. I think it was in the wintertime. What do they hold, 18, 20,000 people. It was sold out. And we had 3 encore songs that we played when we'd get our encore, and in no particular order except for how we wanted to bring the audience up or down. And so we had finished our song, our last song, and the dressing room was a locker room because had all the lockers and basketball players, and had a table sitting in the middle of the room. And I'm a pretty excitable person, and back then when I'm 25 years old, 24 years old, I'm so full of adrenaline from the show, and the building is shaking. The screaming is so loud that it's deafening. So we run back into the dressing room, and we open up a Pepsi. And Tom and Stu open up a Pepsi, and John sits on the bench in the middle on this table, and it was about yay wide, 4 legs. He sits down on it. He's facing me, and I am jacked. I'm almost floating. I'm so excited. So what song? I said, what song are we going to do? What song are we going to do? And just so I knew when I went out there, we started the song, right? And he says, we're not doing one. And I laughed. I thought he was joking. And Tom and Stu were sitting down against the lockers, drinking their Pepsis with a towel over their shoulders. And I can't. There's no way I can sit. I am jacked up. And I says, oh yeah, you're gonna let them bleed? Listen to that. He says, we're not doing one. And he was very adamant about it. I said, why? He says, encores are phony, and from this moment on, Creedence Clearwater Revival will never do another one.
He was so in the center of the hurricane that he wasn't able to make the best career decisions, which led to us living with that contract. And that was even worse, I mean, when then you're starting to feel like, particularly for John, who was doing the writing and the singing and the production, and he's like feeling a bit, like he's shackled, chained to this obligation. Instead of doing something that you love, you're forced to do it, and there's really no longer any expectation of the next level unfolding for you. It's so there's a lot of disillusionment that created a lot of bitterness, between the band and the label, and ultimately because of the bad decisions between the band and the various members of the band. Pendulum was an album which sort of marked the end of the band. As the pendulum swings, I think that was the symbolic, as I interpret it, that was what was going on. We actually took 3+ weeks making that album, recorded in San Francisco at Wally Heider's. It was that was the last album before Tom left, last quartet album, and the writing was also on the wall, about the band. We suffered the record company's double cross, and Tom had announced that he was leaving, and wanted to do things different, wanted more input, And at that point, you know, we said, well, let's just do this album like we've been doing them. You know, we're going in the studio in 2 weeks, you know, what are we going to do? So we all agreed that, you know, we would continue with the formula for this album, but it just didn't feel the same.
Yeah, one thing I did, you know, want to bring up, and this is really our only opportunity. John has a lot more power of the press, shall we say, and it gives us an opportunity to bring up things that, so we can get them off our chest, really, and move on. The Mardi Gras album, which was a horrible album, each one of us did a third of that record, was actually not our choice, so that's how it was presented to the press, and John said, that's what these guys wanted. It couldn't have been further from the truth. He had left for Europe, ran off for a couple of months to do whatever he did over there, and when he came back, actually as he was leaving, I believe it was, he said, the next album, you do a third, and I'll do a third of the songs, and I'm not going to sing on your songs because I have a unique voice. And Stu said, first of all, I was speechless, which is a rare occasion for me. Stu said, that's not what the fans want. That isn't Creedence. He says, that's the way it is, or we break up right now. So it was an ultimatum, and of course, it played right into his hands. Once it came out, it was terrible. Of course, it was. Then we broke up. And he just told everybody that we'd forced that issue, and that's, you know, and he couldn't go on like that at all, and set us up again, kind of like the Hall of Fame or the No More Encores. If he wanted to break up, he should have just been a man about it and said, well, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. But he had to get us and jab that old dagger in the back and give it the old twist, and, you know, it's not necessary, you know. End it like a gentleman and move on. But those are, you know, very vindictive, very vintage John Fogerty moves, and it's not healthy. It can't be good for him. I mean, he might get pleasure from it, but it's in the long run, it you know, it comes back as baggage, and I'd really like to see him be totally free from all of it. He's got a new wife, and he seems very happy there, and talks about that all the time. But he still is dealing with the past on that level. And the only reason I'm bringing up all these things is this is our only opportunity to get our side of the story out. And like I say, well, you know, I've moved on, but this is an opportunity, so I'm getting it off my chest too.
All of the youngsters through the country and Canada have been asking us for this group, so here is the Creedence Clearwater, opening with their #1 record hit, Proud Mary. So let's have a tremendous welcome for these guys.
Looking for a job in the city, working for the man every night and day.
People were very disappointed when Creedence finally broke up, and not long after it started, really, 1972. It was a very short span, really. But in a way, it was a good thing, I suppose, because we're left with this legacy of great songs, Proud Mary and Bad Moon Rising, and so many more great songs from all their albums. It's great that their memory wasn't really destroyed or sullied by producing a string of flops or duff albums in the aftermath, as happens to many groups that went on for 20 or 30 odd years, dragging out their career. So they ended on a tremendous high, and people now can look back and remember what was an amazing contribution to American rock and roll.
Actually, I talked to John Fogerty once. Very nice man. Got into a lot of politics, I know, with former managers, and he wrote about that in song, and got into some lawsuits and legalities. And I think it was really unfortunate that this band disintegrated when it did, because the other members and John couldn't get, I don't know, how shall we say, on common ground. When one person is the focal points and the main writer and songwriter and sort of takes over that type of mentality in a band, it just doesn't work. And the band's, demise is inevitable. And it's unfortunate that it happened. But the time that they were together, it was pretty magical. And they put out so many great albums and songs that are going to be around forever.
Every band, has its, rough edges and dark stories, but Creedence was a lot of fun. We had a good time, and it's unfortunate that it didn't run longer. But with Doug and I playing now with the Creedence Clearwater Revisited, we got another opportunity to play this music in front of the fans, and they've taken to this band. This is our 11th year now of playing something that we had really no idea that we'd ever be doing. How often do you get a second chance? And we really found a great second career. It's like the senior tour in golf.
I shake my head every day. I just go, God, this is so neat. It's you talk to the young people and see them looking out from the stage, singing the songs. They're very knowledgeable. It's it's very very heartfelt. I'm a lucky guy.
If you come down to the river, bet you're gonna find some people who live. You don't have to worry, though you have no money. People on the river happy to kill. The big wheel will keep on turning, round mirror keep on burning, rolling, rolling, rolling on the river, rolling, rolling, rolling on the river.
Great. Well, come on, let's hear it for them.